What's going on, Dave?
Hey, Henry, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. We are here live once again for Monetize Mondays, and we want to share with you guys today the three biggest lessons learned in 2016 from both of us. And I feel like when we share this with you, it's going to help you kind of crystallize and get laser focused for the new year so that you can become more profitable and really get your business to monetize very efficiently. So what was it, Dave? It was a couple days ago. I put the top 15 takeaways for 2016 for me personally, and you saw it and you were like, "Oh my God, this is a perfect opportunity to."
Yes, it's a perfect opportunity for us to discuss it for one of our Monetize Mondays. In fact, it's one of the things that we learn by the lessons that we have over the course of a year, and you shared some really good lessons, so we wanted to talk about them.
Yeah. So which one do you want to start with?
Well, we discussed it a little bit earlier, so why don't we talk about people buy your passion and why you do what you do before they buy your product or service. And I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that so many people make, whether they're selling themselves, their company, especially people who have an info marketing business or selling online. I think that's a good topic. What do you think?
Awesome. Let's rock.
It's the Passionpreneur. I mean, seriously, the Passionpreneur right there.
For sure. So, one of the biggest takeaways that I learned was when I went to my first Inner Circle Mastermind meeting that Russell Brunson throws 3 times a year for his Inner Circle Mastermind students, if you will. And I remember getting up for the first time in front of 40 people, and I got really emotional because I told them my story from beginning to end, and people were clapping and hugging me, and the one guy was like, "You were the biggest takeaway from the past 2 days," and I was just like, "Holy cow!" And I didn't even mean to do that. It was just I wanted to get everyone that was in the room, if they were going to help me, they had to know the backstory. So I zipped through it. I actually spent the whole 30 minutes on it. And then I let them kind of give me feedback, and it was very, very powerful. So many people were coming up to me, and one of the guys, Alex D, right? He was like, Mr. Passion himself, he calls me. And that's what made me realize that people will buy into your passion and your why before they ever buy into your product or service. So anyway, just wanted to share.
It's interesting that you did that, whether it was instinctually or not. It's very powerful. In fact, one of the most viewed TED Talks ever is by Simon Sinek. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he has something that he calls the golden circle. Have you seen that video?
I know Simon, and I know he's big about the why, but I never saw that.
Okay, so it's a 19-minute or 18-minute TED Talk, one of the most watched out there, and he talks about the challenges that most businesses have is they focus in on what they do, and then they tell people how they do the what, and oh, by the way, here's why I do it, if they even bring that up. And so what he does is he draws 3 concentric circles. And by the way, I don't know if you ever noticed this when you're at my office, I actually have his golden circle right there on my wall. It's behind my door, so my door's closed. It's like keeps you focused in on why. So right at the center is, now if you shift it and you do it a little bit differently and you focus in on all about why you do what you do, because people buy who you are, what you're about, how you think, why you take the actions that you take, and what makes you tick. When they understand why and they can get connected to you personally, then all of a sudden you can say, oh, by the way, here's how I can serve you. Once again, it's all about service, right? So why to how I can serve you, and oh yeah, this is what we do. And what we do is a natural byproduct of how you're serving other people. And when you do a very good job in communicating it, you'll attract more people to you. I'll give you an example. You were on some of the calls that I do with our doctor group, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things our doctors do is they have to get up in front of the room. And one of the things we teach them to do is get up in front of the room and communicate their message. The first thing that we have them talk about is, why are people here? And then is it okay if I share with you why I do what I do? And because everyone has a story. And once someone connects to your story, it changes everything.
Yep. That's it. One of my brother-in-laws works for this comic book company, and yesterday we were talking about. I asked him a question: what makes a great comic? And he said, a great story and a great character. And and I said, well, tell me more. And he said, that character needs to be so great that people can actually see themselves in that character.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, holy smokes, that makes
they would want to see themselves in that character.
Or that. So I found that to be very intriguing and inspiring, because I feel like, hey, listen, we're all characters in our own way, and it's people are going to connect with you or they're not. And there's no right or wrong answer to that. You just got to be you. And I feel like that's what's going to make people win this year. So with all that said, let's move on to number 2, tripling down on your strengths and delegating your weaknesses. So,
by the way, we have a guest today.
Oh, which one's that?
Cosmo.
Cosmo's the man.
Cosmo's the cool man. By the way, this is us being ourselves. We get to bring our animals to work.
Exactly. So tripling down on your strengths and delegating your weaknesses. Dave, share a story real quick about how you got in your own way in the past.
How many ways? How many times? I'm a little bit for those who know me, I'm a little bit of a control freak, and some people who know me very well will say that a little bit. And maybe it's because I like everything to go right. And one of the biggest challenges I've had in the past was I became my own roadblock, in the sense that you can only go so far if everything has to go through you. So what you have to do is learn how you can empower people and then empower a team and help them do what they do best. And you focus in on what you do best. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't put checks and balances into place and that you don't measure and inspect. I mean, one of my good friends and former mentors and former boss about 15 plus years ago, when I was in corporate America 17 years ago, I don't know, it's a long time ago. He told me this: don't expect what you don't inspect. So when you're focusing on what you do and you're powering others and creating leverage, put the checks and balances into place. Make sure that people know what they're accountable, who's responsible, okay, who needs to be communicated and who needs to be informed, and create sort of that RACI chart on everything that we do and make sure that it's assigned. And that we use team collaboration tools, communication tools to make sure that every individual product, no matter who's doing it, it's communicated. And that way there's people who check, who inform, who communicate. We even have different groups with clients. We create these collaboration tools, and we even bring clients in on them. So that way we're not doing things via email that can get lost. Everything is done within a great communication system. And it helps us do what we do really well. As for me, I like setting up the overall strategy, and it's sort of like being the conductor in the orchestra that is up there saying exactly this needs to go, and then the team sort of just does what they need to do, and it works well that way.
Exactly. And for me, before I had you as a partner, before I had my team established, I was a one-man band. I did the bookkeeping. I did the Facebook ads. I did all the designing. I was doing all the design work for all of my clients. So it gave me no room whatsoever to grow. And I remember that day when somebody told me, you need to replace yourself if you expect to get to the next level and break through that glass ceiling.
Yeah.
And that was like the biggest takeaway ever for me, because I said, he's absolutely right. And a little different from you, Dave, I was actually ready, willing, and able to give up that control immediately. My biggest setback, my biggest fear was I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have those checks and balances in place. I didn't have the processes and systems in place. So even if I brought somebody on board, they wouldn't know what to do because I didn't know what to do with them. And that's why I invested in processes early on 2016 and I hired somebody to help me create a system so that when I brought a new designer on board, he or she had a training manual, had a video that they watched to make sure that they knew what the hell they were doing. And that would really help me scale the business very, very quickly. And it helped replace me as the one-man band to, like you said, sort of the conductor. And now I'm doing what I do best, getting out there, interacting with people, sharing my personality, sharing my stories, and just getting people to know me. And I think that's why this works so well.
Well, here's an interesting thing, because 20 years ago, I built a business that we did $45 million annually from zero over a 5-year period. And it was in corporate America. So we actually had built-in teams and hierarchy and structure and had roles and who was responsible. So I sort of learned, it's interesting because I sort of learned how to work through people and how to work through teams. And at the same time, though, what happens, and it happens so much, that when someone goes off on their own, all of a sudden that paralysis comes in that, oh my gosh, my success is totally dependent upon here on my shoulders, and I have to do everything. And when I have to do everything, all of a sudden it becomes paralyzing and freezing, and you don't want to hand it off to someone else. And here's what I can say. Find great people. Find people who are better than you at the things that they do. Now, one of the things, you and I even had a conversation this morning about accounting. I am not an accountant, okay? And yet I understand where everything is in accounting. I know where to look for everything. I can see if there's a problem, and I can ask good questions by at least understanding. So you've got to understand your business, and understand by understanding doesn't mean you have to do. And finding great people and that are better than you. And when you hire, I'll give you, I mean, Henry Ford, his whole group, his company was built. He didn't know how to build a car, but he had people who built a car. Okay. And the funny thing is, I mean, you know, as far as building, I know how to build funnels, but I don't do it. I don't get involved and get in the weeds and do it. We have people on the team. We set the framework and the layout of what we want to happen, what the process and the roles, and then we have people who go implement it.
That's it. So I think we definitely hammered that down. I think it's super important to stay in your lane, get out of your own way, triple down on your strengths, and delegate your weaknesses. You're going to grow a lot faster. So last but not least, Dave, my number one takeaway from 2016 was time, and how important time is. And it's our most valuable asset. That's one thing in our lives that we cannot get back. We can get more money, we can get more things, but we can never get more time. And so how does that show up for you?
Well, I look at it a little bit differently. And by the way, I do agree with you. Time is our most precious commodity. So I want to ask everyone a question. If you're watching this right now, if I could show you right now how you can get 2 full weeks back of your life, How many of you would want it? Just type in here, yes, give me 2 weeks. Yes, I want it. Type it in there. If you're watching this right now, say, I want this. I want the 2 weeks. I want my life back. I'll show you. Okay, because here's the thing. It's so simple, and yet it's not. I'll ask you another question. How many people do you think waste at least 30 minutes a day? 30 minutes a day just surfing the internet, wasting their time, checking their email. How many people?
Let's just say a million.
Millions, right? Okay. And I mean, heck, we'll take it this way. I'm going to show you the power of this. How many people waste an hour a day? Probably just as many, right? If they're wasting 30 minutes, they're probably wasting an hour. Yes.
That's right.
And then we could take it to 2 hours. I can guarantee you that there are people that waste at least 2 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
I agree.
I want you to think about this. We have, on average, if we look at it, we have 20 average working days a month. So if we take that times 12 months, we have 240 working days a year. Now, if we multiply 240 by 30 minutes, that gives us 7,200 minutes. You divide that into hours, that's 120 hours. You divide that hours into working days, that's 15 working days. If you waste 30 minutes a day, you wasted 15 days times 8 hours. So you guys want 2 weeks back? Next time you think about surfing the web, wasting your time, when you know you have things to do and you can be more productive, focus in on the things you need to do.
Or how about this, Dave? Trying to build your own funnel when you're not a designer, trying to create marketing collateral, trying to develop a strategy for all these things that you're just not savvy or skilled to do.
Oh my gosh, Henry, think about this. How many people have we spoken to that said they spent the last 3 months trying to build out their marketing funnel, trying to create their strategy? A, they never launch. B, when they launch, they don't have any success and they don't understand why.
They're trying to do too much. And they're quite frankly, they're taking advantage of their own time. They're not.
I mean, that they will never get that back. And the interesting thing is, if they actually focused in on developing content or focusing in on what they're good at and put someone who's really good at doing the other things, oh my gosh, they could actually launch and start generating revenue and tweaking and modifying. Someone who can look at it from the outside and say, hey, we're going to launch and then we're going to continue to improve and get better, because you never know what the response is going to be from the people that you're looking to connect with. So yes, get those 30 minutes back, get that hour back. I mean, an hour a day, that's 30 days. You just got a whole month back by not wasting an hour a day. Oh my gosh.
When you said that to me before, my eyes lit up, because I was like, wow, when you put it in that perspective, that's powerful. It's so powerful. And I say to myself, like, am I going to spend 30 minutes on this project? Is this going to help me make things easier in the future? If not, I'm out. I'm not doing it. And that is the precious part about time, and being consciously aware of it and holding it at a very, very, very high value. So I appreciate you bringing that perspective to us, because it's the weird way of actually, but not actually, getting back time. And that's powerful. Yeah. That's powerful. So anyway, is there anything else you want to share? I mean, we like to keep these sessions, these episodes tight. I mean, we're just about out of time, but I think we got a lot done. I think we got a lot accomplished.
One thing I'll share, if you notice, I'm standing up.
Mm-hmm.
So for the new year, I've been testing this out for the last couple of weeks. I actually have a stand-up desk now. And one of the things that I notice is I'm getting more done. I'm getting things done faster standing up versus sitting down. Maybe it's the posture. Maybe it's that I can move a little bit more. So if you see me standing up, it's because I've got a stand-up desk. I can go up and down. Right now I'm standing up.
Well, for those of you that this is your first episode of ever watching Monetize Mondays, we want to let you know that every Monday at 12:30 Eastern, David and I do our Monetize Monday show just like this one. So if you missed this one, make sure you catch next week as we bring you more value, more content, and more ways to help monetize your business, take your business to the next level, and start to create that business and brand that you've always wanted to. So David, thanks again for being you and for sharing your expertise and your insight and your wisdom. And we'll see everybody next week on next week's episode.
Yeah, Monetize Mondays.
Awesome. Take it easy, guys.
Thanks. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.